What's going on, guys? Pegasus and the Wise Guys, and on this Tech Time I wanted to go over a couple of cards that can specifically help out the Drytron deck in deck building. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's a lot of adjusting that constantly goes on where you build your deck your certain way, then you have to completely adjust everything that you just did in order to get around the meta that you're around, whether it's a big event, whether it's at your locals. It specifically depends on whatever the hell you have going on. But in getting into the cards, I wanted to touch on each and every one of these specific cards just because I think they're all really interesting. Volcanic Queen has been seen more in the OCG, and while it's decent, it does take away your normal summon, and it is a kaiju-like effect, and it gets around the Drytron restriction, and that's why I'm highlighting the card specifically for that reason, is because if you've always wanted to play kaijus and maybe you've just never seen this card or never even heard of this card and you want to try it out to get rid of a card that's extremely powerful like the Arrival Cyber's Adagnister, you know you've played against at least one player by now that has dropped this on you and you didn't have any kind of answer for it, and you might have lost the game or had to scoop just by playing against the deck. Well, Volcanic Queen can help you to get over the card because it can kaiju the monster very, very easily, smooth off the board. However, it has a restriction, much like Lava Golem, where you cannot normal summon in that turn, making that a relatively powerful restriction because you won't be able to Diviner during the same turn. Now, is that really, really amazing as far as a tech is concerned? I would like to think it's decent, but it remains to be seen. It's up to you. I've seen it in the OCG more than the TCG, but that's just me. As far as cards that have really been popping up and cards that we have to talk about, Triple Tactics Talent has been popping up simply because everybody's playing double-digit hand traps. At minimum, everybody is at least playing 9, meaning you're going to get hand trapped an awful lot. And in a control or slow down pace format like this, where you have a combo deck like Drytron, you need to punish your opponent for interacting with you in that way. Usually they're going to try to hand trap you once or twice. I think it's above 50% if they're playing double digits like that at minimum. I think 12 is at least you have a 50% chance of opening. I have to get in front of the hypogeometric calculator. But interacting with you is what you want the other deck to do, and then you can punish them for it, whether it be a droll and looking into their hand and being able to rip a card out, whether you're going second, you're playing into a board and you want to take control of a monster on their side of the field. That's going to be the least used of the three. And obviously you have the Forceful Sentry like effect at the very end of the card. I think the Forceful Sentry comes up probably the most, because if you get hand trapped once and you feel like you can keep playing, you can just look at their hand and rip out their starter and then completely body them out of the game. It's really up to you. I feel like Talents is correct inside of Drytron. Phantasme is another card. I've seen it a lot in side decks. I've also seen a lot of deck profiles and a lot of people in my testing circles and in online testing circles on Dueling Book that are all playing this card and thinking about playing it in the main deck. As far as hand traps inside of Drytron, yes, Phantasme. Now, obviously, a lot of people have started to cut down on the hand trap, so I haven't seen it in the main deck as much. But I've been mentioning Phantasme just because if you can get it out onto the field, it literally immediately takes out the Appaloosa, which is probably why you would consider playing it. Just because, well, hey, let's face it, if a 24 can run into a 24, life is good. Now, however, that's not that great when you're going against a deck like Tri-Brigade because Omen doesn't target, and that makes that not quite as good. However, against every other deck, and I truly believe even the mirror match link summons sometimes. Every deck link summons pretty much in this format. So that makes this card at least a possibility for you to play. I'm not going to say it's a requirement. I would definitely consider siding it, but it's definitely an option. It depends on what your meta is. If you're walking into a bunch of Subterra, you don't need Phantasme anywhere in your side deck. That's just kind of how the game always plays out. Next card I want to talk about is Black Rose Dragon, which is very similar to Zeus. I like the Zeus-like effect inside of a main phase 1. That's just silly. And honestly, guys, I don't foresee you really needing any other way to make it besides just normal summoning and sending either an Arclight or an Intis to either pop a card or search a card, and then using one Drytron, and then from there using Black Rose inside of a main phase 1 with the possibility of still having full combo inside of your hand before you did anything is definitely a powerful option that you should consider putting inside of your extra deck. Next up, we got to talk about Dragoon. Obviously, everybody knows about this. This is the popular one, and it's the last but not least one that nobody really wants to talk about, but we have to talk about it. With Verite and Dragoon obviously going together, Dragoon has been popping up inside of Drytron for this reason. People are playing so many hand traps, just like Talents, but this is another option for it. I actually think Talents is better. I prefer Talents, but people are playing Dragoon because if you waste 1 or 2 cards hand trapping your opponent or them hand trapping you, Drytron can then still probably end on 2 effect monsters. 2 effect monsters still hanging around on the field ends on Dragoon. Dragoon against about 90% of the decks is still a card that your opponent is going to have to waste a hell of a lot of resources on. Therefore, against Drytron, that becomes devastating because you fall so far behind a deck that will go so far in front of you as soon as it goes back to them that it's definitely something that you should probably consider. However, the bricks are so awful and it is a pretty fair back effect. You're adding 3 bricks into a deck that is so overly consistent that you really don't need the package. So it's 2 different lines of thinking. There's about 100 trillion different ones inside of Drytron, but I hope all of these have helped you in some kind of way, help to better build your deck. There's plenty more than this. These are just 5 that I've seen popping up as of late. This is Pegasus from the Wise Guys signing out. Appreciate you for tuning in. I am signing out. Deuces.